Well, y'all, I am super excited to have today's guest on the podcast. His name is Alex Polamero, and he is the founder and CEO of Ninestone Partners, a digital marketing agency based out of California. I actually have known Alex for a couple years now, and the way that we got to know each other is we are part of a peer advisory group, and that peer advisory group is called Convene. I heavily suggest any business owner in the lower middle market, you're talking businesses with 5 to 50 million annual revenues. If you're not part of a peer advisory group, I heavily suggest it. There is nothing like getting to meet with other business owners that are facing similar challenges that you're facing, meeting with them either person to person or virtual once a month, talking about your challenges and getting their advice to help you ultimately, succeed in your business. That we know that being a founder, owner, CEO at the top is a very lonely position because you may not always have people, key advisors that have experience walking through what you're walking through. You may be just starting to delegate and have a leadership team, but not everybody's quite your confidant that you can talk about some of the key issues with. Or you could even have, say, a right-hand person and you're having an issue with them, but you can't talk to them about it yet. And you need a peer advisory group to talk to. I heavily suggest you check out Convene. It is a Christian peer advisory group. Their website is convenenow.com. And it's where I met Alex a couple years ago, but I have really enjoyed getting to know Alex personally. Alex at Ninestone Partners, they are focused on digital marketing, marketing automation, and CRM implementation. So if you don't know what a CRM is, it is a customer relationship management tool. And he is going to provide some really actionable advice for business owners considering their first CRM implementation, because there's a lot out there about CRMs and there's a lot of failures in regards to implementations of them, right? And Alex is going to provide some actionable advice on how to have actual success with it. How are you doing today, Alex?
Oh yeah, man. Great to be with you. Feeling good,
Awesome.
Mason. Let's do it.
Great. Well, today we are going to talk about how CRM and sales automation can drive business growth. Our guest, Alex, is a founder and president of Ninestone Partners, who has over 20 years of experience helping firms scale from $1 million to $1 billion in revenue. We're excited to hear Alex's strategies for accelerating growth in the lower middle market. Alex, thanks again for joining us.
Oh yeah, my pleasure, of course. Mason, this
Awesome.
stuff's fun, man. I love talking about this, and our synergies are so fantastic in helping companies. It's a great conversation.
No, and I think before even we go into some of our questions, right? I for our audience to understand, Alex and I have worked together, and it's been interesting because we worked on a mutual client together where in our CFO services for Brady CFO, we discovered an issue with revenue forecasting for a particular client that they really didn't have much visibility into their revenue into a very seasonal business. And we discovered that the reasoning for that is they didn't really have good insights on the status of their potential proposals for jobs, et cetera. And they really needed a CRM, and also they could amp up some of their digital marketing. And so, Alex, I brought in Alex, and we're partnering together with that client to try to help them to grow their business and get better revenue forecasting, but ultimately not just revenue forecasting, to grow the revenue, right? And so, by working with Alex, I've discovered a lot more of what you all do, but it's exciting because we're talking about, something very positive here for our audience. We're growing top line revenue, right? That we are growing that big top line number. And so, I really want our audience to hone in here that Alex will have a lot of expertise. I know that this is something you're super passionate about. And so just excited to dive in here.
Yeah, you got it. That's been a great opportunity to work together, right? Because obviously one of your levers for helping companies be more successful is generating more revenue.
Very much so. Yes. Very much so. As long as it translates to bottom line, right?
Right. We do like that. Yeah, that's important.
Yes. Well, Alex, help the audience understand tell us about your journey in the marketing and sales space and what led you to found Ninestone Partners.
Yeah, sure. So I started in CRM, over 20 years ago. I was an Oracle super user for the YMCAs of LA. There were 25 different YMCAs, 300,000 different members. And I was responsible for training everybody in the entire organization on how to use CRM properly.
Got it.
And also transitioning folks from print, the organization from print to digital.
Got it.
And then I went on to work for a big real estate development firm, one of the largest privately held in the country. And I became an expert in using a tool called Marketo, which is kind of mid-market to enterprise level version of HubSpot, where you have a lot of email and marketing and sales automation. And I got really good at that tool and said, hey, I want to start my own firm. My family has generations of entrepreneurs. So it's something that's kind of in my DNA, I suppose.
Yep.
So I really started out of a core expertise in understanding CRM and marketing and sales automation. So I was a technical person.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, no, great to hear that. And I think it's unique, your perspective that you're going to bring to this, because, I think a lot of, lower middle market businesses that they associate marketing with kind of the brand and, kind of the vague gray area of stuff. Right. And, as I, even personally, as I've grown over the past couple of years of understanding really performance driven marketing and that aspect of truly trying to have metrics around lead generation and using technology as a tool to bring everything through a system. So yeah, I'm really interested in diving in more with you here. One thing, your firm, I know it used to be called Ninestone Marketing, is now Ninestone Partners. Can you elaborate on that? What made for that change?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and it's a great question. Marketing has become more sophisticated, marketing and sales. There's a lot more technology. There's a lot more core expertise that you need. And what we found is, rather than be good at everything, we are very, very good at the CRM and automating campaigns, email, SMS campaigns, everything related to that. So using HubSpot, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics. We need partners around us that are the best at what their expertise is. So let me give you an example of our partners. Paid advertising. We have a partner that's spent the last 25 years working with Fortune 500 and has distilled that information into small and mid-market capabilities, as well as the technology. Folks like you, Mason, we don't pretend to be a CFO service, right? Yep. We have clients that need capital, clients that are selling or buying businesses, all this kind of stuff, and we can send them to you. We do advanced API integrations between software solutions. And when those become really technical, we have a software development team that can help us with those really complex integrations. So, and the same is true with branding. We have somebody who's been working with huge global brands, and they can come and work with our small and mid-market clients, taking what they've learned from big brands. So PR, social, I mean, you name it. It takes a village to be super successful. So we're trying to bring the best talent to our clients at the best rate that's fair. And awesome. That's made us more successful, and our clients, a lot more scalable, faster. Yeah.
I appreciate your perspective on that, because, I think even in the accounting and finance realm, right, that they kind of, they think that someone at a high enough level can just do all things great. And I think you and I both know, even in finance and accounting or sales and marketing, like that's just not possible. That, a person that can be really great at creative and branding may not be very fluent in a CRM implementation, or, how to set up those paid ads, or, whatever the case is, that they may have a general understanding of how it works, but a really strong fluency where they are experts at it, can do it themselves, very likely not. And the same, speaks for accounting, finance, other departments of an organization, right? That I've met great directors of HR that are great, people leaders in terms of creating a culture and an organizational culture. But, if you talked with them about specific payroll laws, all of a sudden it's over their head, right? And you got to go talk to one of their team members about it. And I think you bring up a really important concept for our audience to understand, that, there's multiple facets to these departmental areas of your business. And it's really important that when you're looking for outside providers, that, you're rarely going to find one person that can do it all, or even an internal team member that can do it all. That you need to make sure that there are these partnerships, and that, whoever you're working with brings a network of resources to you. Would you agree, Alex?
Oh yeah, 100%. Right. There are two things that make this work? One, companies need expertise, like you're saying, right? So you need to find the people that can help you with core expertise. So build that network around you, and we bring vetted resources to the table. And so do you, Mason. These are people we've worked with for many years and know that we can trust them for our clients.
Yep.
The other thing is, it is just a lot more fun working with people who know what they're doing.
Yep.
Just flat out. I just like it better. And so do all our clients.
Yep.
Right. Awesome. And the third is, it's a lot more profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're working in your sweet zone, right? A
Yeah.
lot less risk too.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's number 4, right? Yeah. Yep. It's less risk when somebody else that you trust has vetted those folks, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times, in order for us to vet a partner, we've worked with many people over many years to find the key partners that we go, oh, these people are the best.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So we've we've had some of those painful moments where we're like, okay, we got to go through a few folks or organizations to find the right ones that we think are the best.
Yep. Very much so. Well, yeah, our audience, obviously our podcast title here is called Accelerating Lower Middle Market Value. And we define, this is a rough definition, but lower middle market is roughly about 5 to 50 million in revenue. That those are some quantitative characteristics. Those numbers can be a bit arbitrary. We realize there's qualitative characteristics that make you go from a small Main Street business to, okay, you're a bit more corporate, institutionalized. You're now in the middle market, you're on the lower side, right? But you've worked with companies across the wide revenue spectrum that we talked about in the intro, all the way from 1 million to 1 billion. And what unique challenges from your perspective do you see that lower middle market businesses face compared to larger organizations?
Yeah, and there are a number of them. Staffing is key, right? So smaller organizations have fewer staff, so they need to be a lot more efficient with their marketing and sales processes, really with everything. They also have fewer salespeople, business development reps, that kind of stuff. So when we're scaling, bringing more qualified leads to the table, right? Who's going to handle those? It becomes a big operational question, right? And how are you going to fund that growth? So that's key. Let me give you an example. We have an insurance firm that we're working with. Last year, we grew their sales 266% in 1 year.
Wow.
Okay. So if you're going to grow sales 266%, then you need to hire.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're going to hire, you got to train. How do you train people quickly, hire them quickly, bring them into your organization quickly? It's harder to do for smaller organizations.
Yep.
Technology is key. So smaller organizations usually cannot afford the same technology that a mid-market or enterprise company can afford, right? If the company has 500 million in revenue, we can afford different software. We have more money to spend on software and technology. What is key? Well, let me give you a couple examples. Like larger companies can more easily afford HubSpot or Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics. We're talking about, let's say we're starting the just software cost is $12,000 a year and goes up to, I don't know, 100,000 or more, right? A year. For smaller companies, we might instead use Go High Level, like a really highly optimized version of Go High Level. It's 1/5 the cost, and it's for accounting or finance firms because we've optimized it. So we've taken what we've learned from big companies, bring it down to smaller companies.
Got it.
Instead of Zoom Info, which starts at like 10K a year for a license, we might use Apollo.io, which is more like 600 a year, right? So instead of integrating custom integrations, we're going to use Zapier as much as possible. So we're trying to bring mid-market and enterprise software ideas to lower market. It means that we have to use different software, but try and get the key capabilities.
Yep.
So another one, our partner on the paid advertising side, he has the only global license to use Sky, which is the top omni-channel software in the world. To access Sky, it's usually a minimum ad spend per month of $1 million, right? Wow. So very few companies between 5 and 50 million are spending $1 million on paid advertising a month, right? Yep. We can use Sky if you're spending 5,000 a month instead of $1 million, because we have access to Sky's executive team, and they've given us the ability to use their software. This is what I'm talking about. Technology is key, for smaller companies. So how do you get what big companies do and bring it to these smaller companies to create leverage, right?
Yep.
Scalability. And so staffing and tech are two key elements that we need to think about.
Yep. Just kind of expanding upon that, because I know we have several other questions about specifically CRMs and some of the automation strategies. I'm interested because you and I have had several conversations about this, especially in the lower middle market, that oftentimes in the lower middle market, we're wanting for the CEOs or the main business owners to begin to elevate themselves out of what we've called the rainmaker position, right? That they are the main salesperson. The sales are tied up significantly in them. How do you approach that, in the lower middle market, that, we're trying to get these founder owners or CEOs out of that main rainmaker position. They're still having to own that a bit, but there's a plan to eventually get them out of that and to have them continue to elevate themselves to where they're acting more as a chairman or a board member. And, they have the systems and the people around them that are executing on these sales. Like, how would you say that we go about making that happen with CRM systems, marketing automation? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest challenges, taking someone who's an owner or founder of a company who's responsible for sales and trying to replicate that person is very hard, right?
Yep.
So I haven't found an easy solution to that, but we found a number of things that do help, right? So one is creating sales processes that are replicable. So it's like in a CRM, we can say, okay, these are the pipeline stages that we go through. These are all the communications that happen. Here are all the sales assets that need to happen that are consistent. Yep. Here's how our contracts are. They're all consistent and replicable.
Yep.
So that we can essentially pass these processes and all these sales assets and scripts and conversations to somebody else, and they can share the story of the brand.
Yep.
Right. So we have to create systems and processes. That's super key. Then oftentimes our clients will bring in a fractional sales team, an experienced sales executive to start selling with the founder.
Got it.
Right. So that has lower risk, right? So it's lower cost. You're not hiring someone at a full-time sales capacity. Maybe it's a 50% sales capacity, but they're already a seasoned sales leader. So we have a partner, for example, they used to run sales engagement for Oracle, right? This is somebody who knows what they're doing. And they have a team. We bring them in to organizations to help them sell and train and create systems.
Yep.
Right? Once that revenue starts to boost, we see in top line revenue, right? Then we're kind of slowly get the founder out. We want the founder no longer to be involved in hunting for business. We want the founder involved in speaking engagements.
Yep.
Also, we want the founder to be involved in maybe providing solutions. So they're no longer hunting for business. They're only getting involved at the solution or the negotiating stage.
Yep.
Right. And so it's a process over time. And then over time, you kind of replace them. But I'd say one of the big challenges we face, Mason, is that at some point you have to invest in the sales team, and that takes money.
Yep. And
one of the things that companies are asking is, well, okay, where do I get that money to invest? So I'd come back to you and say, and this is something we regularly ask you, how do we get that? Once we have systems in place, how do we structure the finances to support sales?
Yep.
Totally. What have you found?
I mean, obviously, and you and I talked about this, more recently, that you can certainly get, equity investment to come and help you do that, right? And you need to create a game plan, a multi-year game plan. Don't think that this is something that happens over the next 6 to 12 months, that, founder, owner-led sales is all of a sudden fully replaced an organization, that your clients and customers are not going to enjoy that process, right? You have to navigate that really, lightly. And so you need to create, some runway that, and create a financial forecast for if you brought these sales team members on, their pay, their incentive programs, you were to go, work with Ninestone, go get their services in regards to CRM implementation, marketing automation, and you were to get all of this, how much money do you really need from an equity investment to make this happen? And then are you really willing to give up that much equity in your business? I do appreciate what you're saying, though, that I don't think it needs to start that all of a sudden you need to remove owner dependency day one, right? Like
Right.
there's a multi-year approach to this. And so it's the idea very much so, how can you automate several of the functions of getting the lead, bringing them through the pipeline until that owner founder maybe is the last step of the process? And how can you continue to get them towards the last step to where they may be the closer, they may be the negotiator? And it's hard, right? Because especially in B2B sales, there's nothing more powerful than the owner, president, founder coming onto a call with the client and saying, you have my word that we're going to treat you really well here. And that, you are going to be a valued client. Like there's nothing greater than that final close. But how do you keep, investing the processes up front so that you continue to minimize their interaction in that sales process until maybe the very end? And then eventually, how can you potentially replace them, like you said, whether fractionally or full-time, like with the VP of sales that the client would recognize has enough authority that this is as if they're completely representing the company here. Like they practically, like this is at the equivalent level of talking with the CEO, that this is a high enough person that, okay, yeah, this is somebody I really appreciate and trust here, and that is going to treat me with a lot of value in this relationship. So I guess to answer your question, yeah, you can look at equity investment. I think either way, this is going to be a multi-year plan of trying to get that owner founder less and less involved in the processes and trying to automate several of those functions and delegating those out until they're at the very end of the process. And eventually you have them out and they really are more so in that marketing. And it's funny because you're kind of bringing them to the end, but then you're also bringing them to the very front of it too, that they can be the face of a brand, they can be in the marketing, but
Yep.
the actual sales process doesn't involve them any further. And either way, whether it's equity or, you're doing that organically, it's going to be a multi-year process. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's usually the case. We're working with a number of mid-market companies right now. Let's say in the 5 to 15 million range right
Got
now.
it.
Where actually the more we get the founder into like out of the details and into the speaking engagements and meeting people, revenue can grow enough to cover sales investment. So there is
Yep.
no, we don't need to take, someone doesn't need to take an equity stake. It's more that we're just growing revenue and we're reinvesting that right in the
Yep.
company into sales. And those salespeople are doing all the business development.
Yep.
And the founders coming in and finalizing negotiation and stamping it, saying,
Yeah.
yeah, green light, let's do this thing. So we've seen that happen. And yes, for most of those folks, it's been a process of like maybe 1 to 2 years to
Yep.
make that happen, like a really dedicated, diligent process. And the other thing is you need to have your operations dialed in. You got to know as a founder of a company that when you pass off the sale, that your team has it dialed in,
Yep.
right? And is going to treat that client really well,
Yep.
so that you can then go and do other things.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. To what we're speaking about, CRM is a system, right? That it comes down to the systems and processes. So kind of a good segue here that, we want to talk very much more about CRMs, that there's a lot of lower middle market businesses that are making investments in CRMs. There's some that don't even know what that acronym means. So for our audience, a CRM is a customer or a client resource management system. Did I get that right, Alex?
Yeah, our customer relationship management system. There
Yep.
you go,
Got
client
it. Yep.
relationship.
Yeah, relationship's the right word. So get out resource, y'all. Relationship's the right word. Relationship's key there. So yeah, you've been involved in numerous strategic CRM implementations. And like you said, that, taking that Fortune 500 technology and trying to figure out other options to make it work for lower middle market businesses. What are the key factors that businesses in the lower middle market should consider when choosing and implementing a CRM system? That, there's lots of options out there today, and we hear about the big ones, Salesforce, HubSpot, et cetera, et cetera. But what are your best considerations for our audience?
Yeah, you got it. And these CRMs are not all the same, So one of the things that makes us particularly unique is that we've worked with so many in a really deep level. So we can help clients figure out, well, what is best for them and what's the time and resource commitment. There's a number of things. So what are the strategic goals? What are you trying to achieve, right?
Yep.
What does success look like? So we just start there. What are you trying to achieve?
Yep.
The next thing to consider is, does the CRM integrate with the business's software?
Yes.
So even things like your call system. So does the business have a call system? Do they want to be able to have those calls in their CRM and tracked? And do you send text messages? Well, different CRMs handle text messages differently. That's just kind of an easy example. Do you deal with secure documents? Do you deal with payment processing? Right? Do you want that stuff in your CRM or not? Right? Do you have an enterprise resource platform? So some of these questions, right? Different CRMs integrate with different software really easily or not easily at all.
Yep.
You want to know that up front. The next thing is ease of adoption, or like ease of use, right? So does your team are your team really sophisticated, already using CRM? Maybe you hired them and they had used Salesforce in the past and they go, oh, this is a piece of cake. Or has your team never used a CRM? We work with a lot of companies. These are very successful companies. They've been around, 60 years, 30 years, something like that. They've never used a CRM, right? Okay. Never used software to do this stuff. Nobody in their organization knows how to do it. And they have no interest in really adopting it, but they need it.
Yep.
Well, we need a really easy CRM to use, right? Versus complex.
Yep.
Another key piece of, a key thing to look at is training. So how good is the software's training and how much does it cost? So HubSpot, for example, has really robust online training resources. Other solutions don't, right? And there's some solutions where we had to create our own training resources to help our clients.
Got it.
Two other things that I think are really important: analytics. So how easy is it to create dashboards and other things that will help you know in a snapshot what the business is doing? Yep. How many sales you have, where are all your sales in the different pipeline, like stages? How long does it take to move through the stages? What types of clients do you have? How's your sales team doing? All this stuff can be seen in one dashboard or not, right? The CRM needs the capabilities to run analytics so that we can make good decisions. And then I'd say that the last one that's really important, and there are other factors too, but these are some of the big ones, is just cost.
Yep.
Right? Look, if you have more resources to spend, then you may get some bells and whistles that other clients couldn't. But so how much do you have to spend or invest? And then we're going to take that kind of information and say, oh, okay, you might be playing in this kind of software ballpark or this type of software, right?
Yep.
So let me give you kind of, and one of the last things is just, what type of business are you?
Yeah.
Right.
That is a big one. I feel like that is understated.
Like, are you an e-commerce business? Are you a franchise business? Right. Are you an accounting business, or are you a manufacturing business?
Yep.
Right? Do you deal with government contracts? Is your business in healthcare and you need to be HIPAA compliant?
Yep.
So it's like one of the first things that I didn't even say it because it's so obvious. It's like, well, what kind of business are you?
Yeah, totally. No, I completely agree, because even from experience, my corporate career, I worked for an agribusiness and we implemented Salesforce. And I think personally, there wasn't enough time invested in what is the outcome that we want from the CRM. People wanted to have a better customer relationship management system. And especially in terms of keeping consistency of identifying who touched base with this customer, what was the last touch base, what did it involve, et cetera, et cetera. But, like you and I have seen with, a mutual client we're working on that, we're trying to get better revenue forecasting out of it. And so the idea is that we would see bids and proposals. And within an agribusiness or a commodity focused business that's highly dependent upon weather, it's like, okay, yeah, they're going to go bid that, hey, they can do, loads of oranges at this price, et cetera, and that this is the general amount of loads that they can send per week. But weather can completely destroy that altogether. And so revenue forecasting is not something that we're going to rely upon in the CRM. And, understanding that and understanding how much are you willing to invest to get the outcome that you want, that this isn't going to be a better revenue forecasting tool. It is, in that particular instance, it was meant for that business model to be, hey, we want to make sure that if the category director and the account manager are talking with the same customer, that there's an overlap of what are the key things that they're talking about, and they can see that with each other, and they don't have to be in the same office with each other. Say, hey, Ryan, what'd you say to them last time, right? That they can see what's going on, and that was the outcome. And yeah, did we need to spend as much money on Salesforce, and had we better evaluated that? Probably not, right? And it didn't even integrate into the ERP, and so we could have made better decisions probably in that aspect. And I think your consideration of making sure that you understand your business and what outcome you want out of it. Some companies are going to have a fully utilize the CRM in a lot of ways, and then some, business models may not be the case, right? And so, yeah, you want to understand a lot more about your business and how it's going to use it. I would argue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's another thing that that kind of piggybacks on that I haven't mentioned. If we know the outcome down the line, then we can start with a lower cost CRM, get 90% of what we need.
Yep.
And that's going to get our clients 2-3 years into the future. Yep. Significant revenue growth. And we know that if they're going to need more sales capacity down the line, we can transition to a different CRM. Yep. But we've already thought about that ahead of time, right? We know this CRM goes easily to the next level. So that transition is not so painful. It's way faster. It's much lower cost, all that kind of stuff, right? We've built it that way from the beginning.
Yep. Very much so. I really would love to understand. We're talking, I've given an example like an agribusiness, but I'd love to understand a concrete example from you, Alex, of a success story where a CRM implementation really significantly impacted a company's growth trajectory, where it just took off because all of a sudden they were on fire with these systems. We'd love to understand a success story from you.
Yeah, you got it, man. I got it. We got a lot of them. So I'm going to give you some like bigger firms and smaller firms. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
We're working with an accounting firm. They were using HubSpot, and they were only following up with 3% of their leads. 3%. Oof. Okay.
Oof.
That's
bad.
Yeah. Right. So if you're, if people are contacting you and saying, I want your business, I want to work with you, Mason, and you don't follow up with them, a couple things happen. You don't make more money, but then you don't have a good rep.
Yep.
Right. Your brand is impacted because you're not following up with customers.
Yep.
So we took this company in 6 months from dealing with 3% of their leads. It took actually about eight months. 3% of their leads to 100% of their leads.
Got it.
In 3 years, this company went from 200 million in revenue to 480 million in 3 years. Okay, now that wasn't just us. They were acquiring companies. So there were a variety of things. But a major factor was the ability to follow up with people who wanted their work. So there you go. We worked with an insurance company. This is a smaller company in the like 15 to 30 million annual revenue range. In 1 year, we increased their sales by 266%.
Yep.
We increased their sales rate, the number of people who came in, by 6%. When you increase sales rate, the people who close, you get a huge impact on your top and bottom line.
Yep.
And we saw a 128% increase in their click-through rate from PPC ads. Here's why the CRM was key. If you're going to put a bunch of people into your funnel through paid advertising, and you're going to make them more qualified, you have to follow up with them more effectively. You have to nurture those leads more. Paid advertising leads need more nurturing. They need more understanding of your business, how you can help them, why you're better than competitors, right? When you nurture those properly and route them to sales, right, you can get big numbers. So 266% increase in sales. It required paid advertising and a CRM. We worked with a financial advisory firm. They had 15 financial advisors in their partnership. We helped them with 20% year-over-year growth for 3 years. Every year they're growing at 20%. And here's one example of how a CRM helped us. They were buying leads from Smart Asset, which qualifies leads online. Smart Asset says, they're looking for people who had $1 million in investable assets to send to this financial advisor.
Got it.
The advisory firm was closing 0% of those leads. So they'd pay
Yep.
for them and they'd close 0%.
Yep.
Once we started putting them into a CRM, nurturing them and educating these leads about the firm and how they could help with annuities and all this stuff, right? Over time, we got it to a place where we're closing 40% of those leads.
That's awesome.
Well, now this is a math game.
Yep.
If we close 40%, we could spend more.
Yep.
So we started spending more on that one channel, Smart Asset, right? Because we knew we could close 40% and we knew how long it would take.
Yep.
I'll give you just a couple more because, these are kind of like concrete examples. We had a cloud consulting firm. We were able to increase their leads in a year, 667%.
Yep.
Qualified leads.
Wow.
Which meant that they had it was right around, 460% growth in revenue. Well, if you're going to put that many leads on a team, they got to have a way to follow up with them. And it's not going to be in a spreadsheet,
Yep.
right? Because you're just going to fall. It's like going to be like a leaky boat.
Yes. Very much
So we implemented HubSpot to help them handle that. And they actually sold. Their company sold. We were with them through this successful exit and a 2-year earn out for the founders. And there you go, right?
Awesome.
They get to do their thing. And so there are lots of examples like that. We've worked with multifamily apartment organizations. We saw one client, we had a 22% net increase in leases, net increase. And we were able to do that, increase in net leases, at the same time reducing their Google ad spend by 38%. Like, how does that work? It works when we can take the people that are not ready to lease an apartment yet and stick with them over time.
Yep. Nurture them.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yep.
Just nurture them over time. Also, handle dead leads. So we've had one client, VP of sales, said to me, Alex, those leads will never close. You can do whatever you want with them. They're dead. They're deader than dead. I said, okay, cool. We're just going to put them into a nurture campaign for 2 years and see what happens.
Yeah.
And we brought in $2 million in brand new revenue in 8 months from dead leads.
Yep.
So, I guess one of the lessons there is just don't throw them out unless they're really, they tell you, no, I'm never talking to you again.
Yeah. I think it speaks to the idea, just because you've reached out to somebody and they don't buy then, we're all busy people, right? And we have different objectives at different points in time in our business and our personal life that, things can change in 6 months from now that all of a sudden make me think, I need to now go talk with Alex, or I need to go talk with the firm that Alex is marketing, and doing these services for. Like, I need their services now. But 6 months ago, we wouldn't have thought that we would have thought something completely different. So it just shows that sometimes it's a matter of timing, but it's also a matter of being a top of mind, right? And that's what CRM and some of that automation allows you to do, is that to be, and you have to think, there's lots of financial advisors. There's lots of accounting firms out there. There's many available to them. You want to be top of mind, and you want to be there at the time when they really need you. And you're not going to be able to do that unless you can automate it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing about that is we take an approach of being helpful. Like, there's lots of information that we can share over time that builds trust. So I could be on a call with a prospective client, and I could say to them, well, you don't need us yet, but let me tell you what you do need. Yep. This, and this. Great. Right? Go do those things, work on those things. I'll refer you to a number of folks to help you with those things. When you're ready for us, let me know.
Yep.
And what that does is it builds trust and credibility. I'm not just trying to sell them for the hell of it, right? Yep. I'm trying to actually help their company.
Yep.
And so it comes from a place of helpfulness. And a CRM actually is very good at creating personalized communications. This is what we do. We create campaigns with personalized communications to that audience that gives them helpful information from the business, right? So that when that business has a decision to make, like for you, Mason, they need to hire. They may not need to hire you today. They might hire you 18 months from now. Yep. But all along, you provided support.
Yep.
That was valuable.
Yeah.
So by the time they're talking to you about a decision, they've already made up their mind, really, right? They're just trying to cross the T's, dot the I's on the deal.
Very much so. And I think especially for some of the smaller businesses, right, that they may not be in a budgetary, position to afford various services, but, they could sure use education and some valuable content that they can consider that, they can use without maybe your support at that point in time. But once they reach a certain level, that then they're ready, right? But the entire time, if you've been educating and supporting them through your automation, through what you've been sending them, and you've helped them get to this point, you're their trusted partner, that you're the ones that educated them the entire time. And now they can bring in the expertise that gets them to the next level. So it's good. We've talked a lot about marketing automation, Alex. So I want to understand, what are best practices specifically that you feel like lower middle market firms should look for in leveraging these tools? We've talked a lot about CRM and all this, but what are some of the best practices you recommend for lower middle market companies?
Yeah, there are a number of best practices. I'm trying to kind of think on that. Okay, you need to segment your audiences. So it seems very simple, like marketing 101 kind of idea. But if you look at who you serve, put them into more specific buckets. When they're in specific buckets, then we can create much more specific content to those people's pain points and the things that they're trying to achieve. Okay, so many organizations just are not very good at doing that. So a great place to start is just segment your audiences into more specific groups. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you're really good at following up with your existing leads. Okay. Not just follow up, but nurturing them over time. So before we're going to spend a bunch of money on stuff or go to new trade shows or new conventions or do a bunch of webinars, we got to know that we're handling the leads that we are getting well. Okay. So the brand new leads, we got to handle well. And then referrals. So we need a systematic approach for asking for referrals and getting reviews. Right? So many of our clients, they will grow and they will scale if they just do a better job with referrals. So we don't need to spend a bunch of money until we're good with referrals. So segment our audiences, nail our referrals and going to our existing clients, right? And do a great job with our prospects. Then from there, we can evaluate, different marketing channels. It might be events and trade shows. It might be webinars. It might be speaking engagements, paid advertising, SEO, these kinds of things. Each one of those have a certain cost. We look at the cost to try and figure out how much should we invest. And we have a sense of what are we expecting from this. So let me give you an example. When we go to events, and many of our clients go to events, if that event costs $5,000, we want a 12x return on that in 6 months. So we know what we need. Yeah, right. That's what we're looking for. If we go to that event, we don't get that 12x, then we reevaluate whether we're going to go next time. Okay, so it helps us kind of decide what we want to do. The other thing is that I would say two other really concrete ideas that are best practice. You got to track lead sources. Where'd you get the leads? And did they convert to sales? Right. And how long did that take? A CRM allows us to do that because then we can look on a report. How much time and effort should we spend on each of these different things we do? Another thing that is a best practice is scoring leads. So let's say we have 100 new leads, prospects. They're not all engaged at the same level. We can look at their demographics, like, what's their job title? What type of business are they in? All that kind of stuff and give them a score. But we can also say, how engaged are they with our emails or our text or our website? And we want to bubble up the most engaged, send those to the sales team to proactively reach out to. So if I got 100, I want to send the sales team 5, the 5 most engaged. proactively reach out to these. You don't have to do everybody. Right?
Yep.
And this is a process every day. The sales team is going, who should I talk to? We need to answer that question.
Yep.
Right. So, and we can answer that question. And that is a much more proactive way than waiting,
Yep.
right? Just waiting for people to call you kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love just in how you're talking, Alex. You're very tactful about each of these elements in these areas, but also, hey, what ROI should you expect? And what ROI have you been able to deliver in regards to your implementations, in regards to some of the things you've done that, I think that that's important for our audience to understand that what is the ROI of the investments you're making, that you're spending your time in the right areas too. And like you said, that, there's low hanging fruit that, how many potential leads have you talked to in the past year that maybe you've submitted a proposal to and they turned out not to, not to go with your business? I'm just saying this as an example right now. Like I'm saying this truthfully. If my CPA was listening, I would say this to his face. I picked a new CPA firm earlier this year. I have reached out 5 times in the past 5 weeks and have gotten no answer from my CPA on the timeline of my, tax filings and when they'll be done. You better bet that I'm going to be looking for a new CPA. But maybe in that process in which I didn't select you as a CPA firm, originally, I went with the other guy, maybe because price or something was, interesting for me. Well, now I'm going to give you a call again, right? Or now I would consider talking with you again, or maybe I've forgotten about you, but man, if you came back up, I would say, yeah, let's come back to this. Let's give this a try again, rather than me having to go vet a bunch of new CPA firms and try to make this work. Right. Or having to go to all that work. And so, you talked about this low hanging fruit of like, can you cultivate your existing leads that have been in your pipeline and spending more time there rather than just all these new objectives. Let's go do trade shows. Let's go make a podcast. Let's go do this and this and that. But What are you really doing with what's in your pipeline? And can you cultivate, a good amount from that and get an easy, immediate bump that all of a sudden paying for those next initiatives is that much easier because you just got that initial revenue bump. And those are a lot easier to close because they were already an active lead in your system, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Your story is so common. So when we represent accounting firms, and we have a lot of them, both big and small and medium, we're looking at 4 or 5 major, mostly like often 4 key buying seasons or cycles. Okay. And one of them is right now. It's for September 15th, like kind of deadline, right? Businesses are getting antsy. If your accountant isn't responding and communicating effectively with you, then it creates anxiety for you, the business owner, right?
Yep.
What Ninestone does is we already know that. So our accounting firms, right, are reaching out. We have a cycle. Like we follow up with people who don't buy from our accounting firms for at least a year, because we know there's 4 more chances in the next year that we're going to get their business.
Yep.
Right. So Mason, if you were in our pipeline, you'd already be getting that information, talking about how we can help you if you're running into these issues.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, maybe we should talk to your accountant. We can help with that.
Exactly. he's got a new lead because I'm mad at him. No, I think for our audience, I mean, this is the prime example of, for our audience, that they could be thinking about marketing or sales and think that, oh, I'm just going to go hire a marketing director, a marketing manager. But the reality is again, as we talked about in the beginning, that you're not going to find a perfect jack of all trades here. You can find a super generalist, but nobody that's going to be an expert in all things. And what Alex is speaking about here very tactfully with particular metrics and this, amount of information, that I think it's very valuable for lower middle market businesses to consider working with an agency like Alex's that is specialized in their particular market segment, that can really bring a lot of this acceleration, a lot of this understanding as to the buying patterns that exist in your industry. Then what are the campaigns that you do in regards to those buying patterns, et cetera, et cetera. Some of that vetted knowledge versus bringing in a person that's a marketing director that can't do it all themselves. And, again, we keep coming back to it, that the nature of automation and the fact that one person isn't going to be able to follow up with a ton of existing leads. If you have, hundreds of leads in your pipeline, darn it, one person's not going to be able to do it. And so you want a good CRM system, and you want a good partner that can actually help you attack all of that, segment it, do it all right, and has lots of experience with it. So, Alex, I really appreciate it, because I think you've shared a lot of value, especially about CRMs, technology, CRM implementation, and really the metrics that people should be looking for. I just really appreciate you having you on the show. And we try to end each show with our guests with one, major question here, that if there's one major piece of advice you give to CEOs or business owners in the lower middle market who are looking to accelerate their company's growth and create lasting values, what would that advice be?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur, and so I don't like to listen to rules all the time. I like to break them.
Maybe that's it.
I'm going to give you two. Mason, I'm going to give you two. Right. You need partners with core expertise.
Yep.
They don't need to be legal partners. They could be vendors. They could be team members. You need partners with core expertise to support and accelerate your revenue growth.
Yep.
That's our philosophy at Ninestone Partners. The second thing is schedule a call with me, right? Because whether clients work with us or not, ever, right? We can still help everybody who's hearing this. We can still help you know what to do. Right? Because we just feel like we got to make the pie bigger for everybody. There's plenty of business, plenty of opportunity. And what we're focused on doing is enabling businesses to grow, because it creates opportunity for employment, economic opportunity. It creates opportunities in communities. It creates global opportunity. And that's really the mission that we're after, right? Creating economic opportunity. So I'm happy to chat with folks and share ideas and share what we've learned in campaigns, even if that doesn't turn into a business relationship. And if it does, that's great too.
Yep. Awesome. Well, where can people find more information about you and Ninestone Partners? Tell our audience that.
Yeah, you just go to Ninestone, spelled out, Ninestone, ninestonepartners.com. And then just schedule an appointment.
Awesome. Easy peasy. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Alex. Really appreciate having all of your insights here. And hopefully our audience reaches out and gets to know more about how marketing, sales automation, and how that can enable them to achieve the growth that they're desiring, build their dream business. So thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, of course. Mason, my pleasure. And your partnership is key, right? So thank you. Thank you for helping our clients. We appreciate that.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.